Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you have ever watched a woman slowly lose interest while you did everything right, this message is for you. The silence, the delayed replies, the way her energy fades without explanation, it creates a quiet panic that most men never admit. Something feels off, and deep down you fear it is you. Stay with me, because what I am about to say may sting, but it will free you. Before we go deeper, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It tells the algorithm this conversation matters, and it tells me you are ready to hear the truth. I am speaking to you not as a critic, but as a psychologist who has listened to thousands of men describe the same confusion. Some men get ignored no matter how intelligent, kind, or successful they are. Others receive attention effortlessly without chasing, explaining, or performing. This difference is not luck. And it is not looks, it is psychological position. Many men believe attraction is created by effort, more messages, more compliments, more availability. But the female nervous system does not respond to effort the way men are taught. It responds to emotional signal. When a man unconsciously communicates neediness, approval seeking, or fear of loss, the brain registers pressure. Pressure kills curiosity. Curiosity is what keeps a woman leaning forward. Being ignored is rarely punishment. It is information. It means your presence does not change her internal state. You are safe, predictable, emotionally readable. That may sound positive, but desire is not built on safety alone. Desire is built on contrast. When there is no contrast, the mind drifts. The men who are not ignored are not louder. They are grounded. Their attention feels chosen, not desperate. Their silence does not beg. Their interest does not collapse if it is not immediately returned. This creates emotional tension, not anxiety, but intrigue. Right now, you may be realizing that being ignored is not about her value or your worth. It is about the emotional message you are broadcasting without words. And once you understand that message, you gain control over something most men never even see. That awareness is the first shift. The moment confusion turns into clarity and passivity turns into quiet power you can feel, regulate, and express without force or apology. This is where real change begins. Being ignored triggers an old survival wound in men, one that whispers you are invisible, replaceable, or not enough. The instinctive response is to close that wound by proving value, more effort, more explaining, more emotional exposure. But this reaction quietly pushes you further away from the very attention you want. Here is the psychological truth most men were never taught. Attraction is not created by convincing, it is created by emotional contrast. When your emotional availability exceeds her emotional investment, your value drops in her nervous system, not because you are weak, but because the dynamic becomes unbalanced. The human brain devalues what is overly accessible. Men who get ignored often lead with reassurance. They clarify intentions too early. They over-communicate interest. They try to be understood instead of felt. This removes uncertainty, and without uncertainty, the emotional system disengages. Desire does not grow in certainty. It grows in anticipation. The men who are not ignored carry emotional self-containment. They do not hide interest, but they do not leak it. Their presence has weight because it is not constantly available. When they speak, it lands. When they pull back, it creates space for thought. Space is where imagination forms, and imagination is where attraction lives. This is not manipulation. It is regulation. A regulated man does not chase validation because his nervous system is not dependent on external approval. Women sense this instantly. The body picks up signals the mind cannot articulate. Calm confidence, emotional restraint, grounded pauses. These cues signal strength without performance. If you are often ignored, it is not because women do not value you. It is because your emotional energy is trying to secure instead of invite. Securing feels heavy, inviting feels light. One creates obligation, the other creates desire. Notice how different it feels when someone wants you versus when they need you. Wanting is attractive, needing is draining. Many men confuse the two, believing intensity equals depth. In reality, intensity without containment creates pressure. When you shift from trying to be chosen to choosing yourself emotionally, something changes. Your attention becomes selective. Your words become fewer but sharper. Your presence stops asking and starts offering. This is when being ignored becomes rare, not because you demanded attention, but because your absence now means something. And once your absence carries meaning, your presence becomes magnetic in ways no strategy can replicate. Most men believe being interesting is about saying the right things, but what actually creates attention is emotional unpredictability paired with psychological safety. That balance is rare, and that is why certain men stand out without trying. They are not chaotic. They are not cold. They are internally anchored. When a woman senses that your mood, self-worth, or direction changes based on her response, her nervous system tightens. Not consciously, instinctively. It reads dependency. Dependency creates responsibility, and responsibility suffocates attraction. This is why overconsistency can be just as damaging as inconsistency. Men who are ignored often show up emotionally before a bond has formed. They offer loyalty, availability, and reassurance too early. While these traits are valuable in commitment, they are neutral or even unattractive in early dynamics. Timing matters more than traits. Think of attraction like a conversation between nervous systems. When yours is anxious, hers becomes avoidant. When yours is grounded, hers becomes curious. Curiosity pulls people forward, anxiety pushes them back. This is where many men misinterpret confidence. Confidence is not dominance or bravado. It is emotional neutrality under uncertainty. A confident man can tolerate not knowing. He does not rush clarity. He does not interrogate silence. He lets things unfold without collapsing into interpretation. Being ignored often means you reacted too quickly to ambiguity. A delayed text became a story. A neutral tone became rejection. You filled the space with meaning instead of letting it breathe. That internal reaction leaked outward, even if you never spoke it. The men who are not ignored allow ambiguity to exist. They understand that attraction requires space to move. They respond. They do not react. They stay present without attachment to outcome. This is not detachment. It is self-respect. When you stop needing certainty, you stop broadcasting fear. Fear is felt even through calm words. It shows up in pacing, timing, and emotional intensity. Women read these cues faster than logic ever could. The shift happens when you realize that attention is not something to earn. It is something that emerges when emotional energy is balanced. When you are centered, your interest feels like a gift, not a request. And when your interest feels like a gift, being ignored no longer defines you. It becomes feedback, not a verdict. That internal shift alone alters how others respond to you because it changes how you show up in the silence between words. There is a quiet difference between men who are overlooked and men who are remembered. It has nothing to do with status, money, or charm. It is about emotional posture, how you hold yourself internally when nothing is being given to you. Many men believe that showing how much they care will inspire connection. But when care is expressed without boundaries, it loses shape. It becomes diffuse, hard to feel, easy to ignore. Emotional boundaries give desire edges. Without edges, attraction dissolves. When a woman senses that you will always be there regardless of how she shows up, her subconscious stops tracking you, not because she is cruel, but because the brain prioritizes what could be lost. Scarcity is not about playing games. It is about having a life that does not revolve around being chosen. Men who are ignored often wait. They wait for replies, for signs, for permission to move forward. Waiting places you psychologically below the interaction. It frames her as the decider and you as the applicant. That imbalance quietly erodes attraction. The men who are not ignored act from internal permission. They move when it feels aligned, not when it feels approved. Their actions are self-referenced. This creates polarity. Polarity requires two grounded individuals, not one leaning and one bracing. Another hard truth is this: being agreeable is not the same as being attractive. Agreeableness without assertion feels invisible. When you never disrupt, challenge, or express differentiated thought, you become emotionally flat. Flatness is easy to dismiss. Healthy friction creates engagement, not conflict but contrast. A man who can calmly disagree without fear shows emotional strength. He signals that his identity is not dependent on harmony. This is deeply stabilizing and quietly attractive. Being ignored is often the result of emotional over-adaptation. You adjust to her tone, her pace, her preferences. In doing so, you disappear. Attraction requires presence, and presence requires self-definition. When you stop shaping yourself to be received and start expressing yourself to be known, something shifts. Not everyone will lean in, but the ones who do will feel you more clearly. And that clarity is powerful, because when a woman can feel where you stand emotionally, she can orient herself in relation to you. Ambiguous men get ignored. Defined men get responses. Even if the response is not always what they hoped for, it is real, and real is where connection begins. One of the deepest mistakes men make is believing attention equals attraction. You might get glimpses of it. She laughs at your jokes. She responds to messages. But if her engagement doesn't hold tension, it is fleeting. Attention without tension is neutral. It doesn't ignite desire. It only confirms your effort. The nervous system responds to contrast, unpredictability, and emotional weight. Men who are ignored often offer consistency too early. They are reliable, predictable, and emotionally accessible from the first interaction. While these traits sound positive, they remove the friction that creates intrigue. Without friction, desire fades. Desire is built on emotional signals, not logic. A man who communicates calm independence, who can tolerate distance without panic, becomes magnetic. His absence is felt, his presence is noticed. Women sense when a man's value is self-contained. That self-containment is the difference between being ignored and being remembered. Many men try to fix being ignored by doing more texts, more calls, more explanations. But desire cannot be created by over-communication. It is created by self-possession. Your emotions must not depend on her responses. When they do, subtle pressure leaks into your voice, your timing, your body language. She feels it instantly, and instinctively, the nervous system pulls back. Think about the last time someone disappeared from your life for a week unexpectedly. How curious were you about them? That tension, that uncertainty, is what fuels attraction. Men who are consistently available never create that curiosity because their emotional presence is cheapened by predictability. Another layer many men overlook is internal emotional regulation. Women do not just feel your words, they feel the energy behind them. A man whose internal state shifts with every message, every glance, every delay becomes hard to read. Hard to read often equals hard to desire. A man who can maintain emotional equilibrium even under uncertainty sends a silent signal. I am complete, but I notice you. Being ignored is often the mind's way of saying your emotional signal is mismatched with hers. It is not punishment, it is feedback. And once you decode this, you gain leverage. You learn when to show up, when to pause, and how to cultivate presence that compels without chasing. The men who escape being ignored do not demand attention. They command it quietly with the kind of confidence that does not shout but resonates. And once you understand this principle, you will never look at being ignored the same way again. It is not rejection, it is a roadmap. Let's address a truth that most men never hear. Desire is not built on kindness or effort alone. Those qualities matter in long-term relationships, but early attraction is triggered by emotional contrast, mystery, and autonomy. Men who get ignored often conflate being good with being irresistible. They believe that showing value equals sparking desire, but the brain doesn't work that way. Think about it. When someone is too available, too predictable, too eager to please, your nervous system knows there is no risk, no tension, no unknown. Desire thrives in subtle challenge. It thrives in moments that make the heart skip, even for a second. Men who are ignored rarely provide that spark, not because they are unworthy, but because they have given their emotional energy too soon and too freely. Women are not consciously evaluating you with a checklist. They are feeling your energy, your emotional weight, your level of self-possession. If you react to her moods, chase validation or over-explain your intentions, your energy becomes heavy. The heavier the energy, the more it signals neediness, and neediness repels curiosity. Now contrast that with men who are not ignored. Their presence is measured, intentional, and self-contained. They can pull away without fear, show interest without desperation, and communicate desire without pressure. They create a tension that is emotionally compelling. Their attention feels chosen because it is. Internally, it is not dependent on her behavior. Another subtle factor is the pacing of interaction. Men who are ignored often mirror her energy too quickly or too consistently. They match her pace to stay in rhythm, but the result is predictability. Men who are magnetic have rhythm of their own. Their energy rises and falls in a way that keeps her nervous system engaged without forcing her to respond. This is why being ignored is never random. It is a reflection of the emotional narrative you are unconsciously telling. Every message, every pause, every tone carries information about your internal state. Women read it without thinking. If your internal state signals uncertainty or dependency, her nervous system registers pressure and pulls away. When you shift your focus from trying to earn attention to regulating your own energy, everything changes. You stop chasing, you stop over-explaining, you stop reacting emotionally to ambiguity. Your presence begins to carry weight because it is rooted in self-possession. And here's the most empowering part. You can control this. You can learn to communicate desire, curiosity, and emotional strength without desperation. Once you do, the days of being ignored, confused, or undervalued become rare because you have transformed the very energy women respond to. The energy that creates intrigue, connection, and attraction. One of the most overlooked truths in dating is that scarcity is not about games or manipulation. It is about presence, absence, and the emotional signal you project. Men who are ignored are often emotionally omnipresent. They respond immediately. They offer explanations. They seek approval. This makes them predictable and safe, but not compelling. Desire is drawn to tension, not comfort. When a man can hold himself without needing immediate validation, he becomes magnetic. His energy is a signal of autonomy. Autonomy creates mystery, and mystery triggers the brain's reward system. Curiosity follows naturally. Without curiosity, a woman's attention drifts. Another reason men are ignored is that they misread attraction as permission. They believe a smile, a laugh, or a casual message is an invitation to escalate, explain, or invest more emotionally. But attraction is not permission. It is a subtle, ongoing negotiation of energy between two nervous systems. Misalign with her rhythm, and the energy dissipates. Align, and it intensifies effortlessly. Men who are not ignored understand this intuitively. They pace their energy, they communicate without overexposing, and they cultivate tension by maintaining their own emotional sovereignty. They do not apologize for their presence or absence. Their attention is valuable because it is not infinite. Here is a subtle but critical point. Women respond to how a man makes them feel more than what he says. Words are secondary. Energy is primary. A man who is constantly seeking approval communicates instability. A man who is emotionally grounded communicates security, and paradoxically, this security is irresistible because it signals competence and choice. Many men try to fill silence with messages, explanations, or reassurances, believing this will prevent being ignored. But silence itself, when balanced with presence, can be magnetic. It communicates self-possession. It gives space for the other person's curiosity and desire to grow organically. Finally, understand that being ignored is feedback, not a verdict. It tells you exactly what your current emotional signal is: overeager, undercontained, too available. Once you learn to regulate your energy, control your responses, and project grounded autonomy, the pattern shifts. You stop being ignored, not because you tricked anyone, but because you changed the emotional dynamics at their core. Magnetism is not created by chasing attention. It is created by cultivating self-containment, emotional contrast, and deliberate presence. When you master these, women do not ignore you. They notice you, they anticipate your attention, and your energy becomes unforgettable. Let's be clear, being ignored is not rejection of your worth. It is a mirror of the energy you broadcast. Men who are consistently overlooked are broadcasting need, uncertainty, or overavailability, signals that the nervous system interprets as low stakes. Desire requires stakes. Desire requires that a man has boundaries, self-possession, and the ability to exist without constant external approval. The men who are not ignored understand this instinctively. They do not bend their emotional state to every interaction. They remain composed under ambiguity. They respond, but they do not over-respond. Their presence feels intentional, their absence meaningful. This is why attention follows them effortlessly. They do not demand it, they radiate it. Another layer is identity. Men who are ignored often anchor their value in others' perception. Every delay, every neutral tone, every pause is internalized as rejection. This creates invisible pressure that leaks into every interaction. Men who are magnetic anchor their value internally. Their nervous system does not depend on constant affirmation. This self-containment communicates strength, confidence, and reliability without desperation. Think of attraction as a rhythm. When you are reactive, the rhythm is jagged. When you are grounded, it flows naturally. A grounded rhythm creates intrigue. A jagged rhythm creates distance. Women instinctively respond to the flow, even if they cannot articulate why. Many men also misunderstand timing. They believe that repeated messages, constant engagement, or over-explaining will reverse being ignored. In reality, timing must honor emotional space. Response should feel intentional, not automatic. Silence is not absence. It is presence in a different frequency. It gives her mind room to register your value. The final truth is this: the men who are ignored can reverse it, but only by recalibrating their energy. Stop seeking permission to exist in her world. Start existing fully in your own. Stop reacting emotionally to uncertainty. Start responding from internal authority. Stop chasing attention. Start cultivating presence. Once you internalize this, the dynamic shifts. Being ignored becomes feedback rather than punishment. Her attention becomes organic, drawn by the emotional energy you radiate instead of the effort you expend. You become a man who is not just seen, but remembered, not just wanted, but desired. The power lies not in chasing, explaining, or proving. The power lies in understanding yourself, regulating your energy, and showing up in ways that make your presence meaningful. Once you do this, you stop being ignored, and everything else falls into place naturally.